morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, David.
So there was a conference that was being held, a Christian conference, and they were having a little debate or discussion. They were discussing different religions, and they were comparing the different religions to each other, and they were trying to figure out what was unique about Christianity. What was unique? So one person suggested that what set Christianity apart from all the other religions was the concept of incarnation. The idea that God took human form in Jesus. That's what makes Christianity unique. But then somebody said, well, actually there's some other faith that believes that God appears in human form too. And so another suggestion was brought, what about the resurrection? That has to be, that's super Christian, right? The belief that death is not the final word, that the tomb was found empty. And then somebody slowly shook their head and they said, there's other religions that have accounts of people returning from the dead. And then C.S. Lewis, this was a little back when C.S. Lewis was still doing this kind of thing. He walks into the room and he has his tweed jacket, he has his pipe, an armful of papers, and he's a little bit early for his presentation that he's going to give, but then he asked them, what are you guys discussing? What are you trying to figure out? And so everybody looked at him and they said, we're debating what is unique about Christianity. And then C.S. Lewis, being the genius that he is, he says, oh, that's easy. It's grace. And then everyone's like, oh yeah. Lewis, he continued that Christianity uniquely claims God's love comes free of charge, and there's no strings attached to this love. And there's no other religion that makes that claim. And after a moment, they said, yes, C.S. Lewis, you're right. They probably didn't call him C.S. Lewis, but they said, you're right. Buddhists, for example, they have an eightfold path to enlightenment, and it's not a free ride. Hindus, they believe in karma, and that every action that you do, your actions, they continually affect the way that the world will treat you. Nothing that comes to you is not set in motion by your actions. And somebody else also observed that the Jewish code of the law implies that God has requirements for people to be acceptable to Him, and in Islam, God is the God of judgment. And He's not a God of love. You have to live to appease Him. And so at the end of the discussion, they said, yes, Lewis, it's grace. You're correct. It's the only Christianity dares to proclaim that God's love is unconditional. Only Christianity. And this is an unconditional love that we can call grace. Christianity boldly proclaims that grace really has precious little to do about us and our inner resolve, or our lack of inner resolve. Rather, grace is all about God, and God freely giving to us the gifts of forgiveness, the gifts of mercy, the gifts of love. Christianity is totally different from all these other religions because of this. In college, it can be hard to be a Christian in college, and one of my teachers once told me that all roads lead to God. And what she was trying to say, what she was trying to impress into our minds was that all religions are the same. But that's not true. C.S. Lewis is right. He said, only real Christianity teaches God's unconditional love. 1999, April 28th. That is 8 days after the Columbine shootings. And it was a terrible moment. And the rock singer Marilyn Manson, he was scheduled to perform a concert in Iowa City in Iowa. And since his music was actually really prominent in the lives of those Columbine killers, Eric Harris, Dylan Klebold. And there was a lot of emotion surrounding this concert. So Mark Forstrom, this guy is a local youth minister in that area, the Iowa City area, and he wrote about what happened. He said, the police, the media, the community, they were all preparing for angry protests and ugly brawling between Christians and Marilyn Manson supporters because of what happened in the Columbine shooting. And suddenly, something completely unexpected happened. And it helped, email was actually a way that this worked out. A new local movement sprang to life. The only way to truly change our moral climate is to soften hard hearts. See, the hearts of the Manson fans have been hardened by their perception that Christians are mean-hearted and hateful, mean-spirited. judgmental people. And so the idea was birthed that we need to unravel this stereotype by encouraging Christians to show the pure love of Christ to these fans, the Marilyn Manson fans, in tangible ways. So when the concert day finally arrived, there was tension filling the community, and the media was gearing up for an ugly little battle that would be had between the Marilyn Manson supporters and Christians. But instead, what they observed here was an amazing testament to the power and the love of Christ. So scores of Christians from churches all over that county, and as far away as Des Moines, which is 2 hours away, they converged on the sidewalks outside the Five Seasons Center, the concert area, and they were told to do positive things. They would pray, and they would show unmistakable love. And it was quite a sight to behold. Here's some of the things that happened. They had groups of Christians that were conducting prayer walks around the arena. There were people in huddles on the sidewalk praying. There were churches, some of the churches around that city, they held prayer meetings that were special for this time. And for showing love, here's some of the things that they did for love. One church prepared 100 pizzas, and they gave them away freely to the fans in line and bystanders. It was completely shocking everybody. Some of the cookies, a lot of cookies were 1,200 cookies and over 1,200 cans of soda were purchased or donated and distributed. Some made turkey and cheese sandwiches and just handed them out. One pastor asked Marilyn Manson fans who passed by how he could pray for them. And about 20 people that he talked to shared specific things to pray about, and he prayed for them on the spot. And after the concert, around $200 in cash, collected mostly by a local youth group, was given out to pay for parking in the parking lot. The Christians involved who were paying for this, they said, "We're Christians, and we'd like to show you God's love by paying for your parking tonight." And the immediate results of this love in action were phenomenal. People were so surprised. People kept on asking, "Why are you doing this?" And they listened to the answer. 2 live radio reporters, one of them was outside the stadium, one of them was inside. They discussed on the air how preferable it was to be outside with the generous Christians. At least 3 people that day gave their lives to Christ through the loving care of Christians. And at least one other fan, he chose not to go to the concert, and he ended up going to church that next Sunday. After getting the pizza, one kid commented, "Wow, Marilyn Manson never gave me anything." One of the Marilyn Manson websites was reporting on this Christian response, and it admitted, so maybe those Christians aren't half bad. And as for the concert itself, many saw God work a miracle there as well. After only an hour, Manson abruptly ended the concert, and he suddenly flew into a rage and threw his microphone to the ground and stormed off the stage just not to come back. So to summarize the totality of this Marilyn Manson, his visit to Cedar Rapids, we might say this. Many fans came to the concert convinced, believing in their heart of hearts that Christians were irritating and that Marilyn Manson was impressive. But many left the concert feeling that Marilyn Manson was irritating and that Christians were impressive. So think of how much closer to the kingdom thousands of those kids might be as a result of this unforeseen outreach event. Let me read a story in the Bible about the woman caught in adultery. I didn't write the actual verse. Verse 8 of some book. Jesus returned to the Mount of Olives, but early the next morning, he was back again at the temple, and a crowd soon gathered, and he sat down and taught them. As he was speaking, the teachers of religious laws and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery, and they put her in front of the crowd. "Teacher," they said to Jesus, "this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses says to stone her. So what do you say?" And they were trying to trap him into saying something that they could use against him. But Jesus stooped down and wrote something in the dust with his finger. I don't know what he was writing. It was probably something important. They kept demanding an answer, so he stood up again and said, all right. But let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone." And then he stooped down again and started writing again. And when the accusers heard him say this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left